Yeah, let's get it. Welcome back to the More Than a Mindset podcast, season 2. Yes, we're back in the building, or should I say season 2, and I'm back in the building. It's your host A, and the season 2 of the More Than a Mindset podcast is going to take on a slightly different look. Season 2 will be hosted by myself, and the majority of the episodes it will just be me and you guys out there just having open conversation, speaking quite honestly and trying to come up with ways to get this black power or this black progression movement off the ground and running. I will be trying to get special guests in here and there where I can, and also bringing back some familiar voices to talk about different subjects and different situations that are going on. But I think I'll use this podcast to explain what's happened in the break while we've been off air, tell you about the newfound hunger I have for the podcasts, and tell you about what the new podcast will look like. So I'll start with what's been going on in the break. So in the break, I've just been working on various projects with some of my friends, and we just been trying to get different ideas off the ground on how we can affect the black community, and I use communities with air quotations as I do a lot. The black community in London, and in particular looking at the area of London that we live in, and we just been putting together various ideas. We had a brainstorming sessions, and we've just come up with the idea of we need to start having regular community meetings, but I'm going to save that for another podcast. But so that's what's been going on during the break. And I think what kind of caused the break was the idea is, are we about talking or are we about action? And when I say are we about talking, you find yourself engaging in a lot of conversations where you're talking with different people and you're saying, oh yeah, we should do this, we should do that, we should do this, we should do that. And at the end of it, nothing comes of it. It was just a conversation you have, and you kind of find yourself speaking with someone else later on down the line, or maybe even the same person, and having the same conversation. And that's what we mean by are we about this talking? But and then at the same time we're saying, are we about this action? And yeah, it's great being about this action, but we also need to have a way of spreading what we're doing. So it's quite kind of an oxymoron saying, are we about this talking or are we about this action? We need to be equally about both, or we should have a game plan that encompasses a certain amount of talking and a certain amount of action. And I think what caused kind of a prolonged break is that I got caught up in the mind of kind of being about the action too much, which is not a bad thing in and of itself, but now we need a way, or we should always be trying to spread this and trying to get other people to mobilize in maybe their immediate area. So the newfound passion has come from the kind of conversations I've been having with people, and kind of realizing there is a need for someone or a group of people to be out there talking and spreading the word of black progression, black positivity, black power, to kind of make the journey of black progression easier and encompass a great amount of people. So as me and my friends in our area were trying to get certain projects off the ground, we were encountering people who weren't too easy to deal with. People you would think, listen, I just got to say this and the third, and they'll understand because they share the same skin color as me. But through those conversations with them, I realized you do share the same skin color as me, but you don't share the same reality as me, or you live in an ideal world, which is great, but it doesn't help change the world we live in currently. So way I kind of look at it is like a Venn diagram. So we have these two circles. We have people who have the ideal world, and the people we have the ideal world, and we have the world as it is, and those two them two circles have an overlap, and in the middle of the overlap is where kind of we want to be operating. Full knowledge of the current situation we're in, but with full knowledge of what the situation we want to be in. So that is kind of drove my newfound hunger for the podcast. And with that, there were 2 quotes from Malcolm X, which are just constantly just been rattling around my head since I was saying, listen, let me get the podcast equipment back here out. And the first one is his quote on motivating people in the aspiration of creating a movement. And he says, the greatest mistake of the movement has been trying to organize a sleeping people around specific goals. You have to wake the people up first, and then you'll get action. So again, so it just shows you have to have the balance of the talking and the action. You have to have a certain amount of dialogue with your audience before the audience will actually move and do something. So that was the first one. And then the second one that it complements the first one quite nicely was his quote on the media. And it says, the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. So with this podcast, I'm not trying to say I'm trying to control the minds of the masses, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my message out there, and social media especially is a great way to do that. It's everybody to varying degrees uses social media, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, people, and having yourself out there on those platforms will help the greater goal, which is progression within the black community. Again, black community said with speech marks. So what I'm going to do is the new show, I'm going to try to keep shorter in duration, because I think what happens is when you have these longer shows, you cover so much information that some of it gets lost. It's just overwhelming, the amount of information that comes out of an hour and a half, 2 hour podcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to break it down into shorter podcasts that are easier to listen to, easier to share with someone. If you say, I'll just listen to this is 15-20 minutes, rather than listen to this is an hour and a half, 2 hours. So what we're going to do is try to break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces, but within trying to break it down is a feat in itself, because when you submerge yourself into the thinking of, I'm going to make it one of my primary objectives to help people of color progress in the area that you live, whether that's the States, Australia, UK, anywhere in Europe, you start to understand how many different elements are at play and how many different things need to be tackled for us to really get to the place that we want to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take an episode and really just try to be focused on speaking about that one thing. And because it is so complex, and because there is so many intersects between talking about this point and talking about that point, that I will slightly cover something else, but the main bulk of the shows will be talking about one element. I think I'm going to start with the black community, again using my air quotes as I do every time I speak about the black community, because I do believe that is a foundation of black progression. That's one of the key things that's needed for us to really get this movement going. So I think that's where I'll begin, and that's where I'll end this podcast. So look out for the next installment of the More Than a Mindset podcast. Again, we're still doing these university tours, so if you're part of a university and you're interested in having us come in and just having an open debate with you guys, you can contact us. The information will be down in the description box below, and I'll see you next time.